Enraptured. Here is Mars. Here is Mars. Here Mars. Here is Mars. 57th class of EXE University. 72 classes. Wonderful. The original prophets. Now let's look at Hosea. 1. 1 to 11. Are we in 800 BC? And her name, this time, is Gomer. This is very good, because yesterday we saw the two treacherous teenagers. Remember? Oholibah. Go. The Creator spoke to Moses, go. Take an adulterous woman and children of unfaithfulness, because the nation is guilty of the most shameful adultery, for being far from me. Therefore, he married Gomer. Reveal. Jezreel means the massacre of Israel. Look how heavy that is. Loamer. Oluwama means Israel will not be forgiven, but Judah will. Loami. Look, the delta means the two peoples. Israel and Judah will unite. But until then, they will not be my people. And I will not be their God. Look how serious that is. Every time I'm silent here, standing still, it's because I'm capitalizing the words that refer to God. I've always done this in my life, and I will do it until I die, always with respect. Hosea 4. Israelites, listen. Faithfulness and love have disappeared from this land, as well as the knowledge of God. All you see is cursing, lying, and murders. Theft, and more theft. Corruption and deceit. Adultery. But more adultery. They exceed all limits and bloodshed is constant. The priests and prophets have deceived you. My people were destroyed by. Who can read this? From there? Come on, 1, 2, 3. No, everything. 1, 2, 3. They deceived you. My people were destroyed for lack of wisdom. You know that this text from Hosea is quoted in all churches. When there is a biblical Sabbath school in churches, the teacher there, the theologian, always cites this text. My people were destroyed for lack of knowledge. And the evangelical and Catholic Church will be destroyed for lack of knowledge. It is the people of God. Again, it will happen again. Because there is a lack of knowledge. Catecheses always talk about this, always. Rabbinical school, this text is loved by theology teachers. Trainers of priests, of pastors. But where is the wisdom? Why were the people destroyed? Lack of wisdom. And now, since you have rejected philosophy, what is philosophy? Love of wisdom. I also reject you as my priests. Since you have broken the contract, I will also break it and take away the exclusivity from your children. Look, I will take away the exclusivity from your children, and they will not have privileges. Before continuing, you saw that again, that problem of Malachi and the same God. Malachi. In the churches, it is taught that tithing is a matter of the people stealing. But in the original that I showed you and proved yesterday, many people wrote to me emotionally today. They sent me emotional audio messages about yesterday's lesson, because yesterday's lesson said that, in fact, it is the class of the Konerim. The priests, the tribal leaders, the leaders of the people. Of course, the people. deserve their leaders. I always say that when there are two people fighting a lot, people feel sorry for the husband or sorry for the wife, right? Do you feel sorry for the husband or do you feel sorry for the wife? They choose one of the two sides of the fighting spouses and say, poor such person. I don't feel sorry for couples because they both deserve each other. When two people are under the same roof, fight, 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 and don't separate, they both deserve each other, and you should take care of your own home and leave them be. Because if the two really had problems, they would have separated. The same question comes here. It's the same question. You speak ill. Who is the bad one? Is it the pastor who steals or the sheep? Who go to the church for blessings? Who only approach God for blessings? So, without a clown, there's no audience. But without an audience, there's no clown. They feed off each other, you understand? It's the same issue as a marriage. Don't get involved. What are you going to say? These texts here are for the people. No, they are for the tribal leaders. But who is to blame, then? The leaders. The leaders. The people. Because the people support the leader. Right? So, look, God. Then there are people who. It's funny because then there's a discussion where people say, but why should the people pay for the leaders? The people won't pay for the leaders. The people will pay for their own mistakes, for electing the leaders. But Brasilia is corrupt. Brasilia is the social extract of Brazilian society. Brasilia is the representative reality of 1,000 men in suits doing what Brazilians do. Arrives late to work, misses work, fakes a doctor's note, lies, cheats on exams. Isn't that right? So, the leaders just represent the people. The more the priests increased, the more they sinned against me. They traded enlightenment and wisdom for shame. The religious leaders feed on the sins of my people. And the more the people sin, the less educated they are, the less they are taught, and the more the priests celebrate. Is that true? It is true. Is it true that there are leaders who exploit people's ignorance? Yes. However, the people deserve to be destroyed because they don't want to evolve. They don't want education. We established a school here on Mar del Plata Street in San Jose. What does the whole neighborhood say? A school. Of what? Philosophical spirituality. What is the contribution of this school to society? They can't see the important contribution of a philosophical school. If it were a church, at least. You understand. A people that doesn't want to evolve is a people that will be destroyed, so here it is. When you don't think, write it down, someone else thinks for you. Everything you don't understand, you judge. Why is there only judgment in society? Because it's easier to judge than to understand. A people without understanding rushes to ruin. Though you commit adultery, O Israel, let not Judah become guilty. Listen, you who are the political and religious leaders of Jacob. You should know justice. Shall we go to Micah? I love Micah. Micah 3. Almost no one talks about Micah, but see. But they hate good and love evil. They strip the skin from my people and the flesh from their bones. Those who eat the flesh of my people strip off their skin, break their bones, and chop them up like meat for the pot. The time is coming when the priests will cry out, I will not interfere anymore. Professor Akin teaches that God does not interfere for long. And you do not understand. He wrinkles his nose and says, yes, he does interfere. because I have personal experience. It will be like a guy who just wrote in the chat, 30 years old, praying for God to send a wife. Thus says Elohim to the prophets who lead my people astray. For when they give bread for my people to chew, they proclaim peace. But if the people do not give them money, they proclaim a holy war. Because of all this, night will come upon you without visions. Night without visions. There will be darkness without divinations. The sun will set for the prophets, and the day will darken for them. What is it saying? What is God trying to say here? If you go into churches around here, it's enough to make you cry you. We'll see pastors quoting these texts and saying, it's being fulfilled. Today, no, my child, this has nothing to do with today. This is about prophets denouncing the people's mistakes in that context of that time. And there's a lesson, because as everything repeats, generations change and people make the same mistakes. So there are lessons for us here. Because only the agents, the characters change, but the mistakes are the same, right? So there are lessons for us here. But what is he saying here? That it will be in darkness and there will be no more divination. In what sense? That the sun will darken for them. In what sense? In the sense that not even the prophets are working because they are no longer listening, neither the pastoral care, the prophets, nor the corrections. So, I mean, you know what? I will even take away your prophecies. You will be left in the dark. The seers will be ashamed and the diviners embarrassed. All will cover their faces because there will be no answer from God. Your temples, look at the churches. Listen, your temples and your political houses of power are built with the blood of the people. They say, Micah, aren't you talking about the churches that were built with slaves? Weren't the churches built with slave labor? So, is this the fulfillment of what happened now during the Inquisition, or during the time of slavery, or during the time of the Jesuits? No. This has always happened. It happened back then. It happened just recently. It will always happen. It's happening now in Africa. Exploitation to build. Mansions, houses of power, sacred temples. Their leaders judge in exchange for bribes. Look at this. Their priests charge to preach, and their prophets tell fortunes for silver. Make the money there, make the transfer. In the past, it was write the check and I'll reveal. And still without any shame or fear, they say, the Lord is among us. He is our protection. Hallelujah. Liars. You know what I've seen my whole life, Winston? Ivanildo. You know what I've always seen, Jonas Barros? My whole life I've seen the man of God who charged 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, 50,000 to preach 50 minutes, 30 minutes of God's word in a church. Obviously, evidently, this man was already bought and neutralized and would never say any truth into the microphone. Yet he has already received all this money, all this silver, as it is here. What truth is this man going to tell a church that not only build his pockets with money, his account, but also it's his financial future? Because if he tells the truth, he risks not being rescheduled for another opportunity and receiving again. And so, the churches have turned into a cycle of lies. Because if everyone is bought, no one can tell the truth. Lastly, I left the religious system in 2010. But lastly, in 2007, 2008, 2009, right at the end, when I was really starting to distance myself, I remember it was already beginning to happen. A custom of, before the preacher, the announcer, the prophet, the evangelist, Before he spoke the word of God to the church, he had to go through an examination with the pastor for the pastor to analyze his sermon and see what he was going to say, to correct some points or ask him to add some things and say some things that were needed. Can you imagine? There's a scene in House of Cards where President Francis says, "I'm asking you to pretend to vote to put my wife as vice president on the agenda." This has never happened, a wife, vice president of the United States, but I'm asking you that this doesn't come from me. If it comes from me, it can't, but I'm asking you to forge this in the House. Didn't the Speaker of the House and the Senate say, "But is this a political theater?" Then he said, "You are already the president of the chamber and have been a deputy for so long, a senator for so long, you too. And to this day you haven't understood that politics is show business, that politics is a show, and that people are waiting for this show." This phrase is clear in the series. He says, to this day you have been a politician all this time, and you never understood that we first write the script here in this room, and then make it happen out there. The way people like it. What is this? This is what churches have also become. And after the pastor is in a little room and tells the preacher who will earn 5,000 raise for 30 minutes, "Look, don't say this, you can say this, and this too. Yes, you can say this. All right, you can go there." The pastor sits behind him. He says everything the pastor wants, and the pastor even raises his hand and says, "God is speaking to us here today." Complete manipulation. Complete manipulation. There is no inspiration in anything, and people believe it. And who accepts the X philosophy? Who is the heretic? Jesus, who died as a heretic. Or that one. Miguel, the great manifestation of Elohim for the protection of my people, will arise. On that day, shall we go to Daniel now? I just want to finish here with this text. That was missing. Therefore, because of the leaders of my people, in my name, Zion will be plowed like a field. Jerusalem will become a heap of rubble and trash. And in place of the temples, there will only be fields full of weeds. Where is it? Why don't you read these passages in the churches? It's in the Bible. It's in your Bible. It's in any Bible. Daniel, now 12. There will be a time of distress such as never occurred since the beginning of the 72 nations. Until then, after those days of great tribulation, millions who sleep in the dust of the earth will become immortal and billions will be discarded eternally. In those days, those who are wise will shine like the brightness of the sun of the sky, and those who teach truth and righteousness will be like stars for everyone, forever. But in the churches, all they talk about is Timothy, 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 and Timothy. Here they come with Timothy chapter 3, saying in the last days expressly, says the Spirit, false prophets, false teachers, antichrists. That's what's coming in the last days. Only bad things are coming. Who said that? That's their manipulation. Here it says, Daniel says that the wise will shine. Those who teach truth and righteousness will be like stars for everyone, forever. Who said that in the last days there will only be deception? With the same amount of power. But there will be lies. With the same intensity, there will be truth. But you, Daniel, seal the words of the book until the time of the end. In the kingdom, there will be great advancements in knowledge, technology, quantum, and science. The Bible says they will occur from one part to another. And then, before they reveal it, get ready because, you know, the churches often misinterpret this text. saying that the fact we have locomotives, trains, airplanes, subways is the fulfillment of this part. It is not the fulfillment of this revelatory text. From one part to another, in the original, it is talking about acceleration, evolution in science, in all areas, starting with telepathy, teleportation, quantum, which we haven't reached yet. It's only at 7G. That's from 2035 onwards. From 2033 onwards, use of hologram internet. 72G. So Daniel, looked in before me was a dual manifestation, one on one side of the river and another on the other side of the river. Above the waters of the river was the man dressed in linen. Did you notice? On one side of the river, on the other side of the river, and above the river. What is this? Did you notice or not? I'll say it again. Just put your hand here, on one side of the river, on the other side of the river, and in the middle of the river. Can you see it or not? Then Professor Ackle puts in the original Bible the code that is like this. Professor Ackle puts it just like this. Revelar, right? Reveal. Then, after the Revelar, Professor Ackle puts it like this. See, what an original UFO manifestation in a triangle of light. And the person says, no, it's not for me. No, it's not for me. I'm comparing it with my Bible here. There's nothing about a triangle. This is all human invention. That's it. They're all being deceived. But he can't see it. He says he's spiritual, a man of prayer, a woman of prayer, but he can't see it. The triangle is there. What fault? What fault do we have that you don't see? One of the manifestations asked the man about the waters of the river. How much time is left before all these terrible things happen? Then the man above the waters of the river, above the waters, raised to the sky his right hand and his left hand, and said, there will be a time, times, and half a time, when the power of the holy people is finally broken, all these things will be fulfilled. Revelation. In 457 BC, we had the decree of Artaxerxes. According to the reconstruction in Ezra 8 verse 25, sooner or later, through Messiah 2:17, the rectification of the walls, keep understanding. There are 69 weeks, which is from 457 to 27. I'm giving you everything. Why? If you research this here, as much as you try to understand, you won't understand. I'm giving you everything. Being in the last week the death of Christ, Daniel 9 verse 26, the anointed maid. The new contract, the new covenant, where the sacrifices ceased, Christ's mission lasted exactly times, and half a time, 1,260 days, 42 months, 3.5 years. How long did Jesus' mission last? 3.5 years, my child. What do people do? This here is the Antichrist. You make the bullet. She is the cow. And then you keep setting dates. This has already been fulfilled. It's Daniel. This here is. It's just like Malachi spoke of the angel of the covenant, who is Jesus, who is coming. Just like Hosea. Just like Micah. Just like Daniel. They are minor prophets who wrote less. They were short, minor prophets, wrote less, and talked about something that was about to come soon after. People take these texts and say now it's something else. Then there were 3.5 years of tribulation, from 66 to 70. That last week of the 70 has already passed, but the Ouroboros apocalypse will bring us the last week of the false Messiah. For those who read, Daniel's words still insist on waiting for the Messiah. And it is for this reason that the prophecies will undergo a remake. What is this? Loop? Let's understand here. It's also interesting to say that the book of Daniel was written around 530 BC. While Daniel lived in Babylon, recorded exactly 3,500 years until the end of the kingdom of the ages. Notice also that the language is the same applied by John and Jesus in Revelation. So, before continuing, here, with Daniel C. I don't know if you managed to notice. Let's take the date with the wrong calendar anyway. 29 to 33, 3.5 years. Delta upwards, Jesus and his mission. Then he said, I will return in this generation. What kind of return is this? Incarnated on Friday on a horse, a man on a horse with a sword in hand, commanding a vast Roman pagan army. Who can imagine such a return? This generation will not pass. Who could imagine that the return of Jesus, the one who ascended, cute, with the angels in white, returning on a horse in the body of a general? Roman, pagan. Do you see why churches will never be able to discern the prophecies? Only the X's who are outside the system, outside, on the outside, which means those who are outside see more. Those who are outside are free, not trapped. Are free, they can see. Why will people in churches never be able to see? Because back then, Pharisees, Sadducees, or even Christians, or even the people of Jesus' church, they couldn't see. Jesus returning. Did you see what Paul's letter said? Do not be discouraged. God's timing is different. Why did Paul and Peter have to keep saying, do not be discouraged? Because they couldn't discern the times. And why can't people discern? Because they don't have an X mentality. They are trapped by their own word. Folks, the word of God is literation. And it's something that was never told to you. It is imprisonment. The word of God traps. It has 4 lines. It traps you in a box. What do you mean, Professor? Look, just. The word of God without wisdom will make you stay trapped. You will look there and say, in the same way you saw him ascend, he will return to send. The angel said, it's there, Acts 1. How can he return in the body of someone evil whom I consider, in my childish view, evil? Because the churches say, Adonai, Adonai, Almighty. But the God they believe in is not all-powerful, because it's a God that only controls good. Against evil, he has to fight. Evil is out of his control. What kind of Almighty is that? So, the God of the churches, he is semi-powerful. When you go to talk with the gospel, you say, oh, pastor, with all due respect, but the God you believe in is semi-powerful, because a God that doesn't control evil, that has to fight evil and only defeats evil in the end, is semi-powerful. Isn't that right? Yes. And therefore, if he is semi-powerful, he isn't even God. He is a demigod. Because to be God, one must be omnipotent. So, the churches believe in a God that isn't even God. Isn't that right? Yes. If you closely observe the culture of the churches, they give more value to the devil than to God. So, let's understand. You didn't understand anything I said. You're mixing a passage from the Bible with what I said. You didn't understand. I said that General Titus Flavius Domitian Jesus Vespasian, 70 AD, destroyed Jerusalem on a horse. You're the one who took a text about Jesus coming on a white horse and mixed it up. It's difficult, right? You mix things up and the teacher gets the blame. Then it becomes difficult. Daniel continues. I, Daniel, didn't understand, asked for clarification, and the man over the waters replied, go your way, Daniel, for the words are sealed until the last millennia. What are the last days? Millennia. So who doesn't understand? And just concluding there. How can someone inside the church understand that God will return during the dual apocalypse? the dual apocalypse. How? How can someone understand? Today, you who know duality, today you who have vision, today you can accept it in your heart, can't you, Winston? Today, Josemar, can you or can you not accept it, Divanite? That the Creator has all the power to come, incarnated as Sennacherib, as Nebuchadnezzar, as whatever he wants. In the churches, they say, God does what he wants when he wants, however he wants. That's a lie. They say this superficially because when God really acts, they don't believe it. When God really acts, they say, no, it can't be God, my God is white.
People are, on one side with blue lens glasses, and on the other side, red lens glasses. How are they going to see the new colors? If they don't take off the glasses to see what this is.
Then, let's go. Let's keep going. Many will be purified, refined, and tested. And what is all this for? To reveal who is who. Look, it was said to Daniel, God's name, prophet. Why will things get tighter in the last days? What does tribulation mean? It means the oil press. You know sugarcane? You. Go there and stop at that place you like, sugarcane, you say. Get me a glass, a jug. Then you say, there's nothing left, just the pulp. Then, he runs the pulp through again and more juice comes out, enough to fill a few more glasses. And that's what God is doing in the end times. For the wise will only suffer and learn, but fools will continue in foolishness and ego. Great revelation. Your Bible says this, from the time the daily sacrifice is abolished and the abomination that causes desolation is set up, there will be 1,290 days. Blessed is the one who waits for and reaches the end of the 1,335 days. And there are people who burn their brains trying to unravel this. What nonsense! And so, Jehovah's Witnesses, theologians, and Eli White Tryon will always try to decipher. Always will try, correcting here, will always try to decipher, but without success. And why? Why can't it be deciphered? And you there too, who at some point in life tried. Tell the truth, confess. Because the references and numbers are wrong. Time, times, and half a time. 42 months corresponds to 1,260 days. Chronological pyramidal signature of Elohim. They were round about 1,290. As in the book of Deuteronomy 8 verse 14 itself, we have 2,300 evenings and mornings in the 1,335, which will also be revealed. It was supposed to be 1,260. They closed it wrong in the translation to 1,290. Then the person keeps calculating, and it doesn't add up. He's just saying the same thing. Time is half a time. It's because everything is signed in 3.5. 3.5 is half of a week, half of 7. It's just because it's half of a candlestick. 3.5 candles, 3.5 candles. It's just a signature. It's a signature of half of 7. Half of 1, half of the period, isn't it? Who knows? The entire book of Daniel and the whole Bible in the originals. Knows this well. See, the numbers 70, 72, 40, and 42 are signatures. Just like in 1 Kings 17, when it didn't rain for 3.5 years in the days of Jezebel, the two witnesses of Revelation 11 were exposed for 3.5 days. So, when you start understanding the Bible, the Jewish eschatological language, you start understanding that there isn't 1290, it's 1260, two witnesses, Moses and Elijah, 3.5 days. Prophet Elijah. For 3.5 years it didn't rain. Isn't there? This is a customary expression of Jewish eschatological language. John has already interpreted this text about the Sabbath, Daniel 12, coincidentally in Revelation 12, and there it is clear, Michael in 1260. So how is it that, in Revelation 12, which is based on Daniel 12? How is it that Revelation 12, which is based on Daniel 12, talks about 1260 and Daniel talks about 1290?
Makes sense.
Does it make sense? So, do you prefer to believe in Adventist pastors, Jehovah's Witnesses, theologians, or in John? Since you don't believe in a Kel. So, is the number 1290 a calculation error? Because it's just repeating the 1,260 days. Shall we study? So, Yod He Vav He God, being from the second and third temple, we have H, 1,260 days of Jesus. H is Y, meaning 1,260 days of Jesus. I'll put it correctly here because it's a huge task to paste this here for you in the chat. Let's go Y 1260. Days of Jesus. H, 1,260 days. From GT 66 to 70. Why? 66, Professor? Because history clearly states, Flavius Josephus, or any literature, that the Zealots started the war against the Romans in 66 and a half. Signed or not? How much is 66 and a half to 70? Vav, 1,260 days of the Messiah and Unista agreement, now in our generation. And who is the last king? 1,260 days in the macro apocalypse, macro tribulation, now in our generation. And how do you explain the number 1335? Wow, and now reveal it. The understanding of Daniel is in the book Ascension of Isaiah, chapter 4. And John copied both authors. So see, to understand the Bible, you have to understand beyond the Bible. Now, how can a theologian who says that the church is extra, that the Bible is sacred, that outside of this there is only heresy and sex, how can a closed-minded theologian who signed a pact, signed a blood pact, when he studied theology to become a pastor or priest, said, everything that is here is all I need. Not even one spark, not a strand of hair beyond us. I am what is here. I am what is here. I am what is here. Then you will die, fool will die, fool. Why will you die, fool? Because to understand, Daniel has to understand the ascension of Isaiah. My son, John based himself on this. Daniel based himself on this. I mean, there's a whole story. There's a whole reason. Everything is connected. Therefore, they are imprecise expressions. But they say the same thing. Let's go. The book Ascension of Isaiah is excellent in this regard, for it was written in the same historical period as John by a Jew about his interpretation of the fulfillment of the prophecies of Daniel and Isaiah. Where? These long texts here are difficult. Let's try again. I'll put half, because it doesn't fit entirely. There you go, folks. When I put it up for you, it doesn't go in completely. It's cutting off there. See? It's cutting off. The book Ascension of Isaiah is excellent in this regard, as it was written in the same historical period as John, by a Jew, about his interpretation of the fulfillment of the prophecies of Daniel and Isaiah. This perspective from a first-century author gives us even more certainty that the numbers are just a language used to say that the anti-Messiah will remain in power with Christ. A little more than 1,260 days, and blessed will be the one who perseveres until the end of the GT, the end of the sifting. So, what is this? Then you think, my God, now how am I going to, God, give me this here? 1,335 days. How do I understand this here? It's just a language. From the book Ascension of Isaiah, also from the first century, which is all a compendium of interpretations of Isaiah and Daniel. We have the Apocalypse in the Bible, don't we? From John, which is based on what? Isaiah and Daniel. And other books. In fact, the Ascension of Isaiah has related citations. Because the author of the Ascension of Isaiah in the first century is practically a parallel to the Apocalypse of John. They complement each other. It's incredible. Just to give you an idea. I don't know if you remember the apocalypse that we learned a few classes ago. In the apocalypse, you mentioned the assumption of Moses. You mentioned the apocalypse of Abraham. Do you remember? So, I mean, there are so many extra biblical books cited, like Enoch, that altogether complement each other. But, Professor, how am I going to achieve this? I'm already giving you everything. Professor, but I'm still one of those skeptical students, like Thomas, who needs to verify the source. Look, the proof is here. The proof is that these texts are interconnected. When do we have proof, fact? It's because what John says are verbatim quotes from these books that are not in the Bible, but were part of the Jewish eschatology understanding. So, from the moment you have passages from Revelation that are in these books, what came first? These books. Many of these books are from 500 BC, 1000 BC, cited by John in Revelation. I mean, that's the proof, the original fact. Now, let's go. To continue here, I don't know if you understood the issue of the 1335. Did you understand?
Yes.
It's simply the language of the author from that time. I mean, when you wanted to extend a little more to talk about 1260 and beyond, as it says, those who perceive until the end a little more, they would put a number there. It's prophetic, the prophetic number, 1335. There's nothing definite. It's not a literal number. It's not a literal number. It's not a literal eschatological chronology. And people fall into this and get worried about it without relevance. I say this.
But, in turn, also, these issues of people who want to literalize these dates in this time end up falling in the very mistake of worrying about these things.
Exactly, the trap of God. Then you ask, why did God allow this? Man is very foolish. Folks, we have. Today, there's someone here that I won't mention. Who? There's someone who said something beautiful, she said, here in the nave. She was talking about problems she's facing, right? I said, but why did you do that? I asked. And this person said, Professor, until we meet the X, we only do foolish things.
That's true.
I wish I had met the X earlier. And this is the understanding you need to have, that this is the truth. And you even have to be glad, because what's really sad is someone who knows the X and continues doing wrong things. That's sad. Because today you understand things. In all areas. All areas. And so there, as for you, Daniel, go your way until the end of the trial. Then, in the kingdom, in the last millennium, you will rise to receive your reward, eternal, to be immortal like me, and reign with me, to understand more about the duality of God. In Ezekiel 28, Isaiah 14, Revelation 12, Daniel, watch the free series on the portalx.tv.br. Ego, phenomenon, Lucifer, which we call phenomenon Lucifer, your ego. Isn't that right? Who has already watched this series? This series is transcribed in the original Codex Bible. So, I'm not going to redo the series here again, because this series is already in the original Bible, Codex. It will be in the 4th edition. It's in the 3rd. It will be in the Pocket Bible. No, in the Pocket Bible. It will not be. And it's already in video form in the series that you can watch. I mean, if you want to understand once and for all why Lucifer is not the horned Satan in the middle of the earth, as taught by churches in Ezekiel 28, Isaiah 14, Revelation 12, watch the series Phenomenon Lucifer. The human behavior of the ego is always the same. I will fall, but I will take some with me. Although I will not redo the series here, I will, indeed, explain these texts from Isaiah and Ezekiel. I won't redo the series, but I will essentially go through it. In the text of Isaiah 14:12, how you have fallen from the heavens, O morning star, son of the dawn. Son, how are you cast down to earth, you who laid low the nations? The nations The nations are. The stock market, right? Binance X. Obviously, there is an inconsistency in the interpretation of the text that deals with the description of a fact involving Lucifer. However, how is it possible if this character was in heaven and was a cherub, anointed, a celestial maestro, in a period when there was no world, no creation, nor nations? Tell me, what am I proving? I am proving that if the text of Isaiah 14 speaks of the devil they created in the Middle Ages, because Satan, this figure you know with horns, was created in the Middle Ages. It didn't exist. So, if it existed, and if the text of Isaiah 14 is really talking about him, the morning star that fell from the sky, it becomes strange because you sing. Sin doesn't enter heaven, right? And how is it that sin doesn't enter if sin does enter? And if inside heaven, which is holiness and perfection, there is betrayal, then even you who go to heaven could betray God there later, tomorrow. I mean, it doesn't make sense. And if a pumpkin doesn't produce a carrot, and a carrot doesn't produce a pumpkin, and if no one changes, and we are the same thing, how can we, after being saved, when God is omniscient and knows everything about us, after we are saved, eternalized, immortal, go to live with God, and still betray him? Does it make sense? How can God create a being omniscient, that will betray him? Oh, Professor, but I am Pastor so-and-so. I am Father so-and-so. And even God, knowing, did it anyway, because, oh then, did it anyway. So it amounts to the same thing. So if he did, even so, he did evil. He wanted evil. He uses evil. And this makes God dual, even if he had created a being to be evil. Now, another important thing is that, if this text is talking about him, look here, how you were cast down to earth, you who laid low the nations. Dear ones, let's go, let's put it here again. The text very precisely for you. Read with me. Just read with me carefully. How you were cast down to earth, you who laid low the nations. How, folks? What nations existed if not even the earth was made? Do you see that the text is not talking about Satan? Thinking generally, in this verse, the reader should take into account that chapters 13 and 14 of Isaiah have the same context and are complementary. So, you have to read chapter 13 to understand chapter 14. They shouldn't be separated, since it serves as a warning given by Isaiah, son of Amoz, against Babylon. So what is the purpose? The prophet's warning against Babylon. In chapter 14, there is an allegory expressed in verses 2 to 15, with the mention of a man who is notably a king. Want to see? You, who said in your heart, I will ascend to the heavens, I will raise my throne above God, above the stars of God. I will sit on the mount of assembly at the highest point, on the holy mountain. I will ascend higher than the highest clouds. This is Isaiah 14, verse 13. The figurative meaning of the text allows pastors, theologians, and priests to have a distorted preaching, since it is impossible to idealize clouds from the plane, material, physical, and spiritual. Just to give you an idea, I will ascend higher than the highest cloud. I will be like the Most High. What does the text reveal? In its content, it is nothing more than the manifestation of ego, the pursuit of power, the exaltation of the human being, in wanting to compare oneself to the Creator. It is the Lucifer phenomenon. It is the Babylonian phenomenon. It is the phenomenon of Laodicea. We always start humble in something. Then, have you noticed that nowadays things are getting worse and worse? That Satan is loose? The teacher just said that Satan exists. Satan is loose because there has never been a time as difficult as when you are teaching someone. Not even 30 days of the course, not even 15 days of the course, and the person is already a master. They no longer respect the teacher. They go out teaching others as if they had learned. They already think they are self-sufficient, independent. They don't even mention the teacher they learned from anymore. And they quickly go out thinking they already remember that I just taught you in a pastoral? Those watching lesson 57 don't know, but I just gave a pastoral. I said, among us, we cannot be like this, no competition among us. Never say, I would do better than the other. So there is management happening. Someone is speaking, someone is cooking, someone is writing, someone is playing, someone is tidying up, organizing. You say, I would do it better, never. That's the ego, that's Lucifer. And today people are like this. They are watching someone talented do something and they say, I think I can do that quickly. And is that how he does it? I do it. The ego, cursed ego. Today, people no longer respect the skills of others. They don't respect teachers. They think they know things quickly. They are independent. They mess up and don't learn, or they learn the hard way. But the depths of heaven, you will be taken, you will go to the bottom of the abyss. God reveals, through the vision given by Isaiah, that the end of the proud and selfish man is a place of humiliation. It is a place of humiliation and scrutiny. And scrutiny. The text continues. Those who look at you are amazed at your situation and ponder about you. Is this the man who made the earth tremble and shook kingdoms? Does that mean it's talking about Satan? No. Guys, if it's Satan, how did Satan shake the kingdoms? If there weren't even kingdoms. Once again, the word man. What is written there? Man. I don't know if you paid attention. It's clear. What it's saying, is this the man? Once again, the word man referring to King Nebuchadnezzar. It's mentioned instead of angel, the supposed Lucifer. If it were an angel, it would be written as angel. There's no reason for God to confuse people. And made the world a desert, conquered cities, and did not let his prisoners return home. All the kings of the nations lie honorably, each in his own tomb. That is to say, the kings of the nations are dead, each in his own tomb. Similarly, also, like all the kings of the earth. The end of Nebuchadnezzar was a tomb. So, the text is talking about this man, full of ego, dies. Satan dies. That is to say, it's talking about a man, about the arrogance, the pride, the vanity of a man. Already delving into the writings of the prophet Ezekiel, we have, Son of man, make a lament concerning Tyre. Tell Tyre that is at the entrance to the sea. Merchandise of peoples on many coastlines. Thus says the sovereign Lord. You say, O Shot, my beauty is perfect. Look at this, people. Look at this. Look at this. Your domain was in the heart of the seas. Your builders brought your beauty to perfection. I mean, where did John draw the inspiration and revelation to write the chapter 3 of Laodicea? Wasn't that what 27 is? Isn't it the same thing? Laodicea? The same thing. Are you talking about Tyre or are you talking about Laodicea? The same thing. It's always the same language. I mean, you are a merchant of peoples. Your beauty is perfect. Your domain encompasses. It's always like that. Rich, powerful, opulent. The term Tyre refers to the kingdom of the Phoenicians, representing, therefore, a nation that today is Lebanon, from the echo of this situation. Furthermore, the following verses highlight the exaltation of materialism. of the wealth and power present in the trade agreements made with allied nations. Here comes the word of God. Son of man, say to the ruler of Tyre. So, interesting. When it talks about Sennacherib, when it talks about other kings who challenged Israel, they say, here is a king. A teacher speaking to a man, a king challenging Israel. Then, when it comes, Ezekiel 27, Isaiah 14. For the interest of churches that want to create the figure of Satan now, it's no longer a man now. It's no longer a king. Now it's a spiritual being. Convenient, isn't it? Son of man, say to the ruler of Tyre, it burns in the Lord sovereign. In the pride of your heart. So, what is it talking about? What is pride of the heart? No one has pride in the heart that beats. Heart here means consciousness, mind, brain. It's psychology. And where is our pride? The ego. You say, I am a god, I sit on the throne of a god in the heart of the seas, but you are a man and not a god, though you think yourself as wise as a god. See? So it's clear, there's nothing about Satan. Are you wiser than Daniel? Will there be no secret hidden from you? Through your wisdom and understanding, you have gained wealth and accumulated gold and silver in your treasuries. By your great trading skill, you have increased your wealth, and because of your wealth, your heart has grown more and more proud. This is what happens to people, all of them. It's talking about kings, but it's what happens to anyone. Professor, but I will never be a king. Not at all. You are the king of your house. You are the king of a company. You are the king of a family. We are always the king of something, and where we are king, it manifests. What we are, be faithful in little, and much I will place you, be unfaithful in little. And the unfaithful, in much it will also happen. It's what you are. So, before I go to Ezekiel 28, I want to make it clear that this Lucifer phenomenon will happen to you, and it has to happen to you. No, Professor, never with me. I am humble. It won't happen to you when you least expect it. And why? Because everyone needs to overcome this test to reach the kingdom. Everyone. If you don't go through this, you won't reach the kingdom. You need to overcome this. Therefore, this is what the Sovereign Lord says, because you think you are wise as God. As wise, as a God, I will bring foreigners against you, the most ruthless of nations. They will draw their swords against your beauty and your wisdom and pierce your shining splendor. They will bring you down to the pit, and you will have a violent death in the heart of the seas. Look at that. Let's reveal this. C. The shooting syndrome. What is the shooting syndrome, which is the same as Laodicea and the same as Babylon? Materialism. Thirdly, power. From Nebuchadnezzar, ambition and vanity. They must be overcome by each of us so that our nature, which seeks the deification of humanity, does not succumb to the ego. What are we always seeking? Deification. You know that humanity is now seeking this. With AI. Recently, Willem Mans, who gave an interview, said that in the near future, starting from 2030, after robotic AI, as soon as super AI arrives, it will begin to merge man and machine. Man has always wanted to do piercings, tattoos, implants, silicone, sex changes, always altering his body. Imagine now that he can be smarter. If he gets an implant, if he undergoes surgery, he can speak other languages. If he undergoes surgery, he can be richer, more successful. Imagine people from 2030 to 2040 looking at each other and saying, I have the installation of such and such a system in me. The status that today happens with the iPhone. The status that today happens with the car. I have a car. I live in a neighborhood. Which university did you study at? Which country did you go to? Which language do you speak? Status, 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 status. Do you have an electric car yet? No, the status is an electric car. It's much cheaper to make an electric car than a non-electric car. But the electric car is much more expensive. Why? Status. Just because it's status. Tomorrow or later it will be common, but it will be cheaper. What I'm saying, if you haven't caught on yet, today people need the iPhone. I went to fix my Samsung. I had an iPhone, abandoned the iPhone, went back to Samsung. I went to fix the Samsung. The guy looked at me and said, "No, I'm sorry, but the Samsung doesn't beat the iPhone." I said, "If I tell you that I filmed the moon with the Samsung, I managed to capture the craters with the Samsung and not with the iPhone. But it's much better. On Instagram stories, it's incomparable. There's no use. The new Samsungs. S22, S23, S24, Samsung, S22-23, 24-25, S25, the new Xiaomi 2 matches the iPhone 14, 15, and they even surpass it. Do you understand or not? I mean, but what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say that this silly status will be inside our bodies. The cyborg man. Listen to what I'm saying. People will say, I have a system inside me. I have a chip. I have a button. I put it in my eye. I put it behind my ear. I put it inside my brain. Have you updated your system? Oh, yes. These people will have better salaries, will be more well regarded, will have better jobs. Do you understand or not? If you haven't understood yet, this is the deification of man in our last generation. The deification, the Lucifer phenomenon. Imagine the arrogance of these people. Do you know that all these things will eliminate cancer? Blindness? Paralysis. Isn't it? Imagine the level of human arrogance in these last days. But again, the human Lucifer. The human Lucifer. He cast upon them the fierceness of his anger, wrath, indignation, and distress, sending evil angels among them. He made a path, for his anger did not spare their souls from death, but delivered their lives to the plague. Is God good all the time? Delivered the plague, pandemic, and struck down all the firstborn, first fruits of their strength in the tents of Ham. Is this Psalms? This is the Psalm 78. Why this psalm? Didn't they make music? There's no gospel music with this psalm. Have you ever seen a mass singing? This Psalm 78. No one has made music with it to this day. This one doesn't become a song. In this one, God doesn't speak. And he showed me Joshua the high priest, standing before the angel of the Lord, and Satan standing at his right hand to oppose him. Look, Satan. No, look. People really don't understand the Bible, do they? And he showed me Joshua the high priest, standing before the angel of the Lord, and Satan standing at his right hand to oppose him. And to Joshua he said, "Do you have an idea?" In Numbers 22, Phinehas said, "Put a clean turban on him." It was up to the scribes to hide the term. Do you have an idea in Numbers 22? It was up to the scribes to hide the term, Satan, and replace it with adversary, opponent, the real meaning of the word. Therefore, the term is an adjective, not meant to refer to a person. In all these texts that I'm reading here, Satan is a person, but it's in the sense of opposition. That's why you read here now. Let's put it back in the text. Look, read there. Satan was at his right hand to be read as oppose, opposition. I mean, it's redundant to say Satan oppose. because it's not a personality. It's an action. It's a verb. Satan is not a person. It's an action. We act. Opposing. Denying. Not wanting. And the anger of God was kindled, because he was going. And the angel of the Lord stood in the way as an adversary. See? And he was walking, riding on his donkey, and two of his servants with him. I mean, this passage is very clear. Numbers 22:22. I just mentioned it here. Isn't it clear who Satan is in the text?
Yes.
Look at that. See that. For it is red on the path by Satan. Then you will have the Bible, which will say, for it is read as adversary, for it is read as Satan, because adversary is opposed to what he was doing. What was the prophet doing? Running away, not doing what he was supposed to do. The prophet was fleeing, so an angel appeared as Satan. An angel appeared opposing the prophet's action against what he was doing. Daniel narrates the moment when the mysterious hand appears in the presence of everyone and reveals the inscription beneath the hole on the wall. This will be the final verdict of the Babylonian reign. So the kingdom of Babylon is ending, and God intervenes in an incredible, very beautiful way, as it is written, right? The inscription was like this: mean, tekel, parsim. What is the meaning of these beautiful words? God's signature, right? And the other king, the Pope king, the Kubu. Mean, God has counted the days of your reign and determined its end. And what is tekel? You have been weighed on the scales and found wanting. And parsim, your kingdom has been divided and given to the Medes and Persians. I mean, why didn't I include the second mean? Because it repeats, right? Mean, tekel, parsim. Actually, just like yod, re, vav, re, the tetragram, a cube, is a delta. Because mean, re and re. Yod, re, vav, re. Mean, there are three meanings. Tekel, mean, tekel, parsim. Mean, tekel. Is it a signature or not? So, by Belshazzar's order, they dressed Daniel in a red robe, put a gold chain around his neck, and proclaimed him the third in importance in the kingdom's government. I mean, it was like a guy who would go out and say, I am not part of the system. I am completely outside of it. But God uses wise men within the system. And then, on that same night, the king of the Babylonians, Belshazzar, was killed, and Darius the Mede took over the kingdom. The Mede-Persian leader took over the kingdom at the age of 62. You see, I mean, the Creator's word was fulfilled as a signature on the wall. A finger that wrote on the wall. Mean, tekel, parsim. 6,000 years of scrutiny counted, the end was determined. Jehovah's scale will weigh. What do you mean? Shall we understand? If we are found lacking in ego, our kingdom will be parsim. The earth has its days numbered, and you will be weighed in your mathematics. And if the result is negative, it will cease to exist. That is the meaning of mean for us. For us, the essence of the writing on the wall. And already heading towards the end of the lesson, 57, we begin now, after this journey to the original prophets. The original poetic ones. Shall we start, Job? Let's go! Another text that deserves questioning when showing the figure of Lucifer or Satan is in Job. Imagine God conversing with a dragon. condemned for rebellion, which took a third of the angels from heaven, and still earns the title of prince of this world. If he was expelled, could he come into the presence of God to touch a righteous man? The absurdity of absurdities, the pinnacle of all pinnacles. How can he? Being who was given the utmost splendor, the utmost glory. In theology, it is said like this: Jehovah, Jesus, Satan, who was Lucifer. Lucifer was the third. Some even say there are pastors and leaders who claim that Lucifer was even equal to Jesus. The same splendor as Jesus, the Son of God, as if Jesus and Jehovah were two people. No, look at the madness of the churches. And then this anointed, perfect cherub, who is a celestial maestro, betrays the Creator with the worst sin a being can commit, which is rebellion, and takes a third with him, is transformed into a demon. And here on earth, he has the mission to sift God's creation, to sift the crown of God's creation. What God loved the most. Of everything God made, what God loved the most is man. And loves this man so much that he takes a traitor from heaven and sets this traitor to sift these men. And to sift for 6,000 years and in the end destroy him. Why not destroy him already? Because I still want to use him. For what? To sift whom? The crown of creation, which I love. And then, later on, he will gather all those demons and put them in the same hell as those who have erred, like Satan. Just one problem, actually, many problems. One of them is that Satan earns the title of prince of this world. And, besides being the prince of this world, he is in battle with the angels in the heavenly realms. That's where I don't understand anything anymore, because if he was made prince, how is he still in battle with God if an agreement has already been made that he is prince? And this Satan is so powerful that he takes Jesus in the desert, brings him to the pinnacle, transports him to the highest mountain, and does what he wants with Jesus' body, back and forth, and the Son of God is like a child being taken back and forth because Satan has a lot of power. And the sieve here on earth. And moreover, he looks at Jesus, who is the Son of God, who is God himself, and says, I will give you this world. How can he give the world to the one who even created the world, and gave him the title of prince? How is Satan going to give him the world? Which is the world that God himself made through Jesus? John says, in the beginning was the Word. The Word was with God, and the Word was God. How? Was Jesus God, was with God, and made the world from the beginning?
And now he has to humble himself to Satan to win the world back.
Considering that Satan was cast out of heaven. What kind of God is this who has the power to cast Satan out of heaven, but then has to kneel to him to win the world back? And to make everything even more coherent, in an absolute and lamentable irony. And yet, there are people watching me who don't understand. It's not possible. This has to be liberating. Once and for all, forever. To make it even worse. Satan, who is Lucifer, who is now on earth as the prince of this world, he will have the presence of God and has the right to participate in a privileged audience with God and converse with God on the throne. From where he was expelled, from where he fell, if he was expelled from there, how does he have access to the heavens? That's what the book of Job says, that he manages to visit God's hall in God. Listens to him as an advisor. How ridiculous, without interpretation. And it's not to scrutinize a Nebuchadnezzar of life, a man full of ego, it's to scrutinize the most righteous man on the face of the earth, Job. And it's not to scrutinize him by just making him nervous and having some losses. It's to destroy the life of the most righteous man, making him lose everything, except his wife, who was the worst thing in his life.
What we just did was delve a bit into the theology of the system. And the more we delve, the more ridiculous it becomes, right?
It doesn't work. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. It doesn't hold up, right, folks? It's so laughable. Guys, nobody wants to do it. Stand up. It's a stand-up. Believing that you believe, it's a stand-up. And we are the heresy. So what you're going to see now is difficult, you know, because he dialogues with the dragon, whom he expelled. If this is the worst crime of all, rebellion, how can I make a rebel a counselor? In the land of Uz there lived a man named Job. He was a man of integrity and uprightness. He feared God and shunned evil. He had 7 sons and 3 daughters. He owned 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels, 500 donkeys, 500 pairs of oxen. And he had many people in his service, many employees. He was the richest man in the East. His sons used to hold feasts at home, one at a time, and they would invite their 3 sisters to eat and drink with them. Did you notice everything? 3, 7, 3, 7, 3, 7. Keep that in mind. When a period of feasting was over, Job would send for them and have them purify themselves. Early in the morning, he would offer a burnt offering on behalf of each of them, for he thought, perhaps my children have sinned in their hearts and cursed God, done something wrong for the sake of my children. This was Job's regular practice, in fact, his relative practice. One day, the angels came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came with them. Now, how does Satan come with the angels? Not even with the demons, but with the angels. The Lord said to Satan, where have you come from? Satan answered the Lord, from roaming through the earth and walking around on it. I mean, doesn't God know this? If God appointed him as the prince of the world, why does God ask where he came from? People don't understand, Professor. I'm not discrediting anything. I'm discrediting what they taught you. I'm showing you because the first thing people say to me is, what's up, Winston? What's the first thing they say to you and me? Originals? Did this professor have access to originals? There are no originals. If there is no original, I'm relying on the original. Nothing is more original. I'm throwing everything away. The original exists. And what I'm showing you are the originals. But Professor, isn't this original? What's missing is understanding things. What is truly original? Professor, I still don't understand. Let's go. Satan is the representation of the divine 6. Shall we go, educare then? Educate. Put revel I there. So Satan is the representation of the divine 6th of the climate of justice, sending angels of judgment. Angels are called Satan in the Old Testament, as proven in Job 2:5. The hand of God and Satan. What is the hand of God? The angels, Satan. The hand of God is the hand. God's 6th, the punishment. The originals reveal that Job was an Arab sheikh. How so? The mere mention of the land of Uz in the prologue proves that Job is a poetic book. As believed by many rabbis, scholars, and experts in Hebrew, since this land simply does not exist. When you want to make a metaphor, you usually use names that don't exist, places that don't exist, fictional, right? So the use does not exist. It starts there. If the use doesn't exist, the story doesn't exist. All right? Biblical passages, such as Ezekiel 14 and James 5, mention the figure of Job with the poetic essence of the book. If Job really existed, this might have occurred during the initial dispensation of everything. That is, when the Creator was directly creating the few inhabitants of the earth. So that's why many rabbis. I'm not talking about myself. I'm talking about the rabbis. Many rabbis say that Job, chronologically, is the first book of the Bible. It is not a pre-Adamic book, but right after Adam, post-Adamic. His name in Hebrew is Iapar, which means the one who was sifted, attributed by rabbinic tradition to Moses. Currently, do you agree that the book was compiled and copied later? Close to the centuries. 7th, 6th century BC. I mean, what is this? I have told you, you know, and I devoutly believe that this book is by Solomon and not by Moses. Why? Shall we understand? The medieval Jewish rabbi Maimonides claimed that the story of Job was just a parable. In contrast, the friar Thomas Aquinas, a leader of the contemporary Catholic Church at the time, asserted that the story was real. Even in Islamic religion, Job is highly respected, just like Solomon, whether poetic or literal, which is unlikely. Job, like Solomon, was married to an Arab woman, and this further increases Job's connection with Solomon, especially because the poetic part of the Bible, because the Old Testament that we are studying originally is right, isn't it? Yes, we are now studying the poetic books. You know that in the poetic books everything is about Solomon. If it's not about David, it's about Solomon. Song of Songs, Ecclesiastes, Proverbs, Solomon. Why wouldn't Job be? Job is part of the story. And poetic books. And you see that there's a bit of the author. Because the author usually tells things. Every film, soap opera, series author tells things in their film that they experienced, that they saw, lived. And it's very possible that Solomon is making the character go through something he experienced. Next, even a rich man married to an Arab woman. There's a lot of Solomon here, isn't there? This Job character is very much about him, about what he's talking about. Of course, it's not Solomon's story, but there's a lot of Solomon here. If he existed, this land was located in Arabia, specifically. And even if he didn't exist, it's a fictional city in Arabia, on the borders, with Idumea, Edom, which would be even more chaotic for the Judeo-Christian system. Because besides Solomon's wife being Arab and black, Job's wife and Job himself were Arabs, making him an Arab sheikh. There are two tombs of Job in the Islamic world, one located in Oman and another in Turkey to this day. Have you thought about the terrible trap set by the Creator for Jews and Christians? So, I mean, there's a tomb there. Having a tomb doesn't mean anything. There's a tomb of Job. It's just for tourism, right? There was a man in the land of Uz whose name was Job. He is upright. Now, did you see the signature there? Did you notice how many times the number 7? Shall we go? Reveal. If you read the first verse of Job, what do you see? Story? Yes, not with an H. Yes. Why story? Us. US doesn't exist. Everything he has. Everything he has. Look here. Let me first deliver the reveal and then I. That's not much. Let's first deliver the reveal. Observe the number 7 and 3 present in the story. They are symbols of someone who knows supreme wisdom, right? If someone created this parable, they inserted the 7 and the 3 intentionally. Deltas and X, knowing the X philosophy. If it was really Job or Solomon who wrote it, it's even more evident, because indeed they knew duality. What do you mean, Professor? He had understanding X. Is someone. Is a rabbi who knows the Kabbalistic signatures. Why? Come on, let's quickly grab here. To do the reading. Here, there was a man that doesn't exist. He had 7 sons, 3 daughters, 7,000 sheep, 7, 7, everything is 7, everything is 3. This is impossible. There's no way a person can be born and exist freely and have everything be 7 and everything be 3. So the author is clearly signing, because who knows who the author is? Solomon. That's why he is understanding X. It's Solomonic knowledge. Divine, it's supreme wisdom. That's why he is signing for those who understand. He hints for those who understand. And secondly, because he is proving that it is not a story, but a story. His sons used to hold feasts at home, one at a time, and then what happens? They invite their 3 sisters, signed or not, to eat and drink with them. When the feast ended, Job would call his children, look to purify them. So see there, and thus a place was prepared for each child, 3 plus 7. Do you see the signature? Job was always concerned with the sanctification of his family. One day, the emanations of the Creator of good and evil began the testing of Job. Let's go. Then the Lord said to Satan, where evil always is. And Satan answered the Lord and said, from roaming the earth and walking around it, seeking and testing men, or looking for someone to test, right? And the Lord said to Satan, what about Job, who lives in the east, because there is no one on earth like him, a man of integrity and uprightness, who fears God and shuns evil? Wasn't it for God to look and say, shut up, Satan, you betrayed me here. Some eternities ago, you betrayed me. What right do you have to speak? Wasn't it supposed to be like that? If it were a dialogue. Anthropomorphic. Oh, how absurd. Then Satan answered the Lord, it's playful language. It's beautiful, actually. Poetically, it's beautiful. Because poetically, someone says, Professor, so why does this exist? Because it's beautiful. It's poetry in the sense of thinking. How does God create us? How does God, within himself, even converse? How does God look at man and say, this man is just? But he is just because he is rich. He is just because he is handsome. This woman is just because she was born beautiful. That man over there is just because he was born into a powerful family. It's easy to do what's right when you have money, when you have power. It's, in that sense, the great philosophical thoughts of Solomon. That he was born rich, born powerful, and born handsome. Isn't it? Wasn't Solomon born handsome, rich, famous, with everything the best? So, within him the thought, it's easy for me to follow God, having everything. And he expressed it this way. How God thinks. Is that it? So what about Job? It's easy for Job to be just, for he has everything a man could desire. Satan replied, it's easy for Job to be faithful to good, for he is protected from evil, he and his family. You don't let any harm come to him, his family, and everything he owns. You bless everything Job does, and in the entire country, he is the man with the most cattle. But if you take away everything he has, you'll see that he will curse you without any respect. The Lord said to Satan, very well. Do whatever you want with everything he has, but do not harm him personally. Then Satan left the presence of the Lord. How unfortunate. Reveal. See how the proof of duality is striking in all Bibles. In your Bible, it says, God stretches out your hand and strikes. But the Lord answers Satan, very well, everything he owns is in your hands. What do you mean? Is it revealed or not? Why did I shout reveal? Still don't understand? Didn't understand? Isn't it possible? If you still don't understand, I will make it very clear. We will read slowly. Between the lines is the whole revelation. It's not even by inference. Is it clear? Explicitly, God stretches out your hand and strikes. Very well, everything he owns is in your hands. "Stretch out your hands and strike," said the Lord to Satan. The hands of Satan. The hands of Satan will strike. Then Satan looks at God and says, "Stretch out your hands and strike." That is to say, the hands of God are the hands of Satan.
Exactly.
Isn't it clear? In the text itself, it's clear that the conversation about the left and the right, the same person, the same tree, the same path, the same brain, the same mind. The left, it says, "To the right, stretch out your hand and strike me." The right said to the left, "Stretch out your hand and strike." It replied saying, "My hand is your hand." See who extends the hand to God. Satan himself reveals that his hand, that is, the hand of Satan, is that of God himself. Then, in a hexagram, interconnected in the same person, in a dichotomized brain, the Creator said to Satan, says that Satan can place his hand. Isn't it clear?
Very clear. So, Satan asks for God's hand.
In the original, it is R.A. Satan, the enemy, the other side, the negative. And God asks for Satan's hand. So, if Satan asks for God's hand and God asks for Satan's hand, perfect hexagram of the application of divine justice. It is a perfect hexagram. This proves the dichotomized God, the dual God. So it's not dualism, two gods, none of that. It is the dual God. We will understand the entire original book of Job in the next class, 58. And then we will take a look. Proverbs, Song of Songs, Ecclesiastes, Psalms. Just an essential overview, because the complete version is right here. Whoever wants. And this essence will transform into the 4th edition, into a pocket Bible, and at University X, for everyone to graduate by 2040. Isn't that right? We conclude here the Luxembourg and Alex program, this wonderful class. Revolving. Not much left, huh? Not much left, huh? 1,260. 260 are from the sent emissaries, because Paul is saying the following: here there is no rapture, here there is Mars.